Have you ever had that feeling, that prickly sensation on the back of your neck that tells you there's more to a story than what you're being told? It's a powerful instinct, the idea that beneath the surface of our everyday lives, beneath the history we learn in school, there are darker, more complex truths hidden away. The year is 1917. The Great War, what we now call World War I, has been raging across Europe for nearly 3 years. The continent is soaked in blood. A team of British codebreakers are hunched over a series of numbers. For weeks, they've been intercepting coded messages, flying between German embassies around the world. The message is from the German Foreign Secretary, Arthur Zimmermann. The instructions are chillingly clear. If the United States declares war on Germany, Mexico is to invade the United States. Imagine it's the early 1940s, and you are on a merchant ship in the middle of the North Atlantic. But beneath the waves, a predator is hunting. The key to fighting back wasn't on the ocean, but in a quiet country estate, Bletchley Park. Their target, the German Enigma machine. At Bletchley, brilliant minds, including Alan Turing, battled the machine. They built massive clattering bombs to test Enigma settings. They broke the unbreakable code. In the dead of night, March 8, 1968, the Soviet submarine K-129 patrolling the frigid Pacific. It plummets more than 3 miles down to the crushing blackness of the ocean floor. For the CIA, this was an opportunity. CIA codename Project Azorian. They recruited Howard Hughes. Public story: Hughes's Glomar Explorer mining manganese nodules. It housed a gigantic mechanical claw. Miraculously, the claw latched on. Then disaster. Some prongs snapped. They recovered only the forward section. But the story leaked to the press, a testament to the sheer, unbelievable audacity of Cold War espionage. These secrets have the power to start wars, topple governments, and completely reshape our understanding of right and wrong. They are the moments when history held its breath, praying no one would ever find out what was really going on behind the curtain. Today we're going to peel back that curtain. We're going to explore 10 of the most profound and disturbing secrets from you, from me, from all of us. These are the stories that were never supposed to be told. Secrets so dark they have the power to change the way you see the world forever. Have you ever had that quiet, paranoid thought? The one that whispers, what if the government is listening? The FBI, under its powerful and deeply controversial director, J. Edgar Hoover, COINTELPRO, short for Counterintelligence Program. They forged letters to create conflict between activist leaders. One of the most famous targets of COINTELPRO was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. They then sent him an anonymous letter, heavily implying it was from a disillusioned follower. A group of activists calling themselves the Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI broke into a small FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania. They stuffed suitcases full of confidential documents and walked out into the night. When they began reading what they had stolen, they couldn't believe their eyes. The year is 1945. World War II is over, and the horrifying truth of the Nazi regime is laid bare for the world to see. The world vows never again, and the surviving Nazi leaders are put on trial at Nuremberg for their crimes against humanity. This top-secret program was called Operation Paperclip. The top recruit was Werner von Braun, the genius behind the V2. He was a member of the Nazi Party and an SS officer. His factories used thousands of prisoners who were starved, beaten, and worked to death. So intelligence officials actively bleached their files. They erased incriminating evidence, altered employment histories, and created new identities. They made a deal with the devil. They took men who should have faced trial and instead gave them new lives, comfortable homes, and prestigious jobs with the US government. I'm going to need you to really listen. It's about a betrayal so profound it's difficult to even talk about. It begins in 1932 in Macon County, Alabama. The United States Public Health Service initiated a new study. Its official title, the Tuskegee Study of Untreated Syphilis in the Negro Male. The study recruited 600 impoverished African-American men. The men were never told they had syphilis. Instead, doctors said they were being treated for bad blood. They were promised free medical exams, free meals, burial insurance. In 1947, penicillin became the standard cure for syphilis. The doctors deliberately withheld it from the men in the study. They were not patients. They were treated like lab rats. The doctors simply watched. They watched the disease ravage bodies. They watched them go blind. They watched them go insane. They watched the men unknowingly pass the disease to their wives, who then passed it to their children at birth. The secret was exposed in 1972 by journalist Gene Heller of the Associated Press. By then, only 74 of the original 399 infected men were alive. Tuskegee became a symbol of medical racism and unethical research, leading to federal laws and protections for human subjects to prevent such a betrayal from happening again. These betrayals of trust cut deep into the American soul, but the revelations were far from over. The next secrets would shake the very foundations of American democracy and reveal horrors that seemed too bizarre to be real. It started with something that, on the surface, seemed almost minor. A third-rate burglary, as the White House press secretary called it. On June 17, 1972, 5 men were arrested inside the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. They were caught trying to plant listening devices and photograph sensitive documents. President Richard Nixon was cruising towards a landslide re-election. But 2 young reporters at the Washington Post, Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, felt there was more to the story. Guided by a mysterious high-level source they codenamed Deep Throat, they began to dig. Their investigation started to uncover a trail of money that led from the burglars back to the committee to re-elect the president. Despite the mounting evidence and the indictment of several top White House aides, President Nixon vehemently denied any involvement. During testimony before the Senate Watergate Committee, a White House aide named Alexander Butterfield let slip a secret. President Nixon had a secret voice-activated taping system installed in the Oval Office. One tape in particular became known as the smoking gun. It was undeniable proof of a cover-up, ordered from the highest office in the land. Facing certain impeachment and removal from office, Richard Nixon resigned the presidency on August 9, 1974. There is a particular kind of fear that comes from the idea of not being in control of your own mind. The thought that someone else could pull the strings, making you think, say, or do things against your will. But in the 1950s and 60s, at the height of the Cold War, the CIA turned this fiction into a terrifying reality. This obsession gave birth to one of the most disturbing secret programs in American history, Project MKUltra. The goal of MKUltra was chillingly ambitious, to develop drugs and procedures that could control the human mind. But their drug of choice, the one they believed held the most promise, was a powerful new hallucinogen called LSD. They dosed their own agents, sometimes without their knowledge, just to see what would happen. They paid prostitutes to lure unsuspecting men back to CIA-funded safe houses, where they would be secretly drugged with LSD and observed from behind two-way mirrors. One of the most tragic stories to emerge from MKUltra was that of Frank Olson, a U.S. Army biochemist. Olson, who had a history of depression, had a severe psychotic reaction to the drug. 9 days later, he fell to his death from the window of his 13th floor hotel room in New York City. For 20 years, his family was told it was a tragic suicide. When the CIA got wind that they were about to be exposed, the director at the time, Richard Helms, ordered all files related to MKUltra to be destroyed. But a clerical error meant that some 20,000 documents were misfiled and survived the purge. By the late 1960s, the Vietnam War had become a deep, festering wound in the American psyche. The government, under multiple presidents, had consistently told the public they were making progress. What the public didn't know was that behind closed doors, the government knew things were far worse, and there was a secret report that proved it.
I believe
In
that this nation
1967,
should
Robert
commit
McNamara
itself
commissioned a
to
top
achieving
secret
the
study.
goal.
Later called the Pentagon Papers, it showed 4 administrations lied. Daniel Ellsberg, who worked on the report, was horrified and believed the public had a right to know. Knowing he faced decades in prison, Ellsberg painstakingly photocopied thousands of pages. In 1971, he leaked them to the New York Times. The court ruled for the press, and the Pentagon Papers were published. The secret was out, confirming the public's worst fears and devastating government credibility. We now arrive at a secret not from the distant past, but from our own time. A secret that unfolded not on paper, but in the digital world that all of us now inhabit. In June of 2013, a young man named Edward Snowden sat down in a hotel room in Hong Kong with a group of journalists. Snowden revealed that the NSA, in the name of fighting terrorism, had secretly built a global surveillance machine of almost unimaginable scale. He provided documents proving that the agency was collecting phone records, the metadata, of tens of millions of Americans. Snowden's leaks also exposed a program called PRISM. This program gave the NSA direct access to the servers of the world's largest tech companies. This meant the government could access your emails, your search history, your photos, your live chats. The surveillance wasn't just limited to Americans. It was global, vacuuming up communications from around the world. The revelations sent shockwaves across the globe. The leaks ignited a fierce worldwide debate that continues to this day. Edward Snowden became one of the most polarizing figures of the 21st century, a hero to some, a villain to others. He was charged with espionage by the United States and has lived in exile ever since. But the secret he revealed could not be put back in the box, and it left all of us with a deeply unsettling and unresolved question. In the name of safety, how much should the state be allowed to know? As we've journeyed through these 10 hidden chapters of history, it becomes clear that a secret is never just a piece of missing information. It has weight. It has power. The power to start a war, to win a war, to justify a terrible moral compromise, or to shatter the trust between a nation and its people. These stories show us that history is not a neat and tidy timeline of events, but a messy, complicated, and often dark struggle between what is known and what is hidden. They are a stark reminder that the official story is rarely the whole story, and that behind every major event, there are often unseen forces at play. These secrets force us to ask ourselves some very difficult questions. When is it acceptable for a government to lie to its people? Is there a line between national security and the violation of our fundamental rights? The men and women who brought these secrets to light, the code breakers, the journalists, the whistleblowers, they often paid a heavy price. They risked their careers, their freedom, and in some cases, their lives, all because they believed that the truth, no matter how ugly, was more important than the comfortable lie. They believed that we, the public, have a right to know. Ultimately, these stories are more than just shocking tales from the past. They are cautionary tales for the present and the future. They teach us to be skeptical, to question authority, and to value the transparency that is so essential for a free and open society. Because the temptation to keep secrets, especially for those in power, will always be there. And it's only by remembering the dark places that secrecy has led us in the past that we can hope to demand a more truthful and accountable world for ourselves tomorrow. The next time you get that feeling, that prickle on the back of your neck that tells you there's more to the story, maybe you should listen to it.